Hello and welcome to Flipped IGCSE Biology, Unit B6 Respiration, Lesson 3, the Respiratory System. Here we have a diagram that shows the structure of the respiratory system. Basically, air will enter in through the nasal cavity or through the mouth, passes down the pharynx, past the epiglottis. The epiglottis prevents food from entering the lungs. It then comes down the trachea, which has rings of cartilage to keep it nice and open. The trachea branches into two bronchi, the singular of this is bronchus, which then branches further into bronchioles. At the very end of the bronchioles, you've got alveoli. The singular of this is alveolus. Around the outside of the lungs, you've got membranes, pleural membranes. These just basically help the lungs slide quite smoothly and not get caught on the ribs as you breathe in and out. In between the ribs, you've got intercostal muscles. These help with breathing. And below the lungs you've got the diaphragm, which is crucially important in breathing. So how do we breathe in and out then? Normally the diaphragm helps us to breathe, but if we do exercise or any kind of strenuous activity, the intercostal muscles, those are the muscles in between the ribs, will also help. So when we breathe in, the diaphragm flattens and contracts. This increases the volume of the chest cavity, which decreases the pressure. Therefore, air will rush in to equalize the pressure. What I'd like you to do is complete this for breathing out, where the diaphragm relaxes and becomes dome-shaped. It's basically the opposite. So let's look at alveolus in more detail. This is where gas exchange happens. So deoxygenated blood will arrive to the lungs in capillaries and passes round these alveoli. The carbon dioxide in the deoxygenated blood will diffuse through the wall of the alveolus, through a layer of water, and then into the space in the alveolus. It then will be breathed out. Now the opposite happens for oxygen. The oxygen that you have when you breathe in has a higher concentration within the alveolus. It will therefore diffuse from the higher concentration there into the blood to oxygenate the blood, joins with the hemoglobin and the red blood cells, and then continues back to the heart. The alveoli are very well adapted for their function. Their adaptations are they've got a very large total surface area. They've only got one layer of cells around the outside. This means that the distance for diffusion is very small. They've also got a layer of moisture, and this allows the gases to diffuse easily. And a very, very good blood supply with a dense network of capillaries. Here we have an illustration from the famous book Gray's Anatomy. You can see all of the different types of cells. It's just basically a cross-section of one of the tubes in the respiratory system. Now we're going to look at two types of specialized cells that are in the respiratory system. Firstly, we've got the goblet cell. The function of this cell is to produce mucus. Mucus is very important in your respiratory system because it traps microbes, bacteria, and dust. This prevents infections within the lungs. The goblet cell produces lots and lots of mucus. You can see at the top here the mucus being released. Another type of cell that's found in the respiratory system is called the ciliated epithelial cell. You'll notice that these cells have got very fine hairs called cilia. These cilia beat and move to pass the mucus up and out of the respiratory system. Now, something very bad for your lungs is smoking. Cigarette smoke has various different chemicals that are bad for you. We've got nicotine, carbon monoxide, and tar. Nicotine is an addictive drug. That's what keeps people smoking. It acts on the brain and nervous system, as does any drug, but it also causes the blood vessels to become more narrow. This can make the heart beat faster and can cause heart disease. Now, carbon monoxide is a poisonous gas. Basically, it reduces the oxygen carrying capacity of the blood. This is because it takes the place of oxygen in the hemoglobin, preventing your red blood cells from carrying as much oxygen. Tar. Tar is a thick black liquid. Now, When someone is smoking, it is a gas, but then when it arrives to the lungs, it cools down and becomes a liquid. This liquid builds up within the smoker's lungs. It has thousands and thousands of different chemicals, many of which can cause cancer. Tar also irritates the passages and makes the smokers cough. It can paralyze their cilia, so the mucus cannot be moved out of the lungs. Smoking also causes some other diseases, for example, bronchitis. The air passages become inflamed or irritated, and the cilia stop beating. This means that the mucus, with all the dirt and bacteria, build up and stay in your lungs. The top picture shows a normal bronchial tube, the bottom picture shows one with bronchitis. As you can see, there's a lot of mucus there. Another disease is emphysema. Chemicals that are found in tobacco weaken the walls of the alveoli. As they're less strong, when the smoker coughs, this can cause the alveoli to burst and damage the tissue. Because the alveoli have a reduced surface area, it's much harder for the person to get all the oxygen that they need into their blood, so they become breathless and tired very easily. You can see here clearly the difference between a normal alveoli and an alveoli with emphysema. And here's the bibliography.